In the quiet town of Willowbrook, nestled in the heart of the countryside, stood a dilapidated old building that sent chills down the spines of those who dared approach it. Once a bustling KFC restaurant, it's now abandoned, its faded red and white sign barely visible through the overgrown foliage. Locals have been whispering about unexplained happenings and strange encounters, warning anyone who listens to stay away from haunted fast food. Legend has it that many years ago, on a similarly stormy night, a series of strange events took place within the walls of the cursed KFC. The owner of the restaurant, a greedy man known for his sinister smile and insatiable greed, has made a dark pact with unknown forces to increase the success of his restaurant. The townspeople claimed that on that fateful night, when the clock struck midnight, an ominous creature passed by the building. The aroma of the famous fried chicken was replaced by the putrid smell of rot and despair. A thick oozing substance that looked like blood trickled down the walls, staining the once spotless floors. The air was heavy with a chilling silence that echoed the screams of those who suffered within these walls. Rumors of ghosts haunting the abandoned KFC are spreading like wildfire. Frightened passers-by spoke of ghostly ghosts, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly red tint that slithered silently through the corridors. The tormented souls of employees who disappeared without a trace roamed the territory, their pained moans echoing in the night. The daredevils who climbed inside reported that they encountered a distorted version of the restaurant they once knew. Tables and chairs looked grotesquely deformed, as if made of flesh and blood. The stalls were adorned with rotting corpses, their limbs twisted into unnatural poses. The menu boards displayed eerie images of monstrous, half-human, half-chicken abominations forever imprinted in the minds of those who saw them. Over the years, the legend has grown, attracting thrill-seekers and paranormal investigators from all over the world. But no one who entered the abandoned KFC ever came back the same. Some have disappeared without a trace, their fate forever tied to the restless spirits lurking within. Others appeared, their spirit broken by the horrors they had witnessed, forever tormented by nightmarish memories. The city council attempted to demolish the haunted establishment, hoping to exorcise the evil that had taken root within its walls. However, every time the demolition group approached, they encountered inexplicable obstacles. Equipment broke down, workers fell ill, accidents followed them at every turn. It seemed like an invisible force was determined to protect the damned KFC from destruction. Thus, the abandoned KFC has become a grim reminder of the price to be paid for greed and the consequences of the intervention of forces beyond our understanding. Willowbrook residents, young and old, are warning strangers to stay away from the haunted place so they don't get entangled in the dreaded KFC chain too. To this day, the haunted KFC remains a chilling testament to the supernatural, a place where the worlds of the living and the dead intertwine. Its doors open on moonlit nights, inviting the curious and the foolish to witness the true horrors lurking within. But be careful, as those who enter may find themselves forever trapped in a nightmare, lost in the clutches of the malevolent spirits that inhabit the abandoned KFC.
The ghosts of Colonel Sanders' legacy. In a quiet little town, nestled among the hills, there was an old, dilapidated building. Its faded sign creaked in the wind, barely visible under layers of dirt and neglect. Once a thriving center of appetizing pleasures, it is now a forgotten relic of a bygone era. This forgotten place was once the legendary KFC, home of the famous Kentucky Fried Chicken. Rumors were whispered among the townspeople, tales of a dark secret hidden in an abandoned restaurant. Some claimed to have seen ghostly ghosts of Colonel Sanders himself wandering the hallways, while others swore they heard eerie whisperings coming from the decaying walls. Intrigued by these disturbing stories, a group of brave teenagers set out to uncover the truth behind the legend. When dusk fell over the city, the group gathered near the enchanted KFC. The air was filled with anticipation and apprehension. Armed with flashlights, cameras, and a mixture of excitement and fear, they pushed open the creaking, rusty door. The rotting smell attacked their senses, filling the air as they cautiously stepped inside. Inside was a maze of forgotten memories, covered in layers of dust and cobwebs. The once bustling kitchen was now in shambles, its appliances rusty and broken. The dining room, once filled with laughter and satisfied customers, is now filled with an eerie silence. As they continued, the lanterns casting long shadows on the walls, they came upon a secret basement door, hidden under a worn carpet. Driven by curiosity, the group descended into the depths of the unknown. The air grew colder and the atmosphere thickened with an otherworldly presence. As they descended the stairs, they found themselves in what turned out to be a hidden dining room. The tables were covered with faded red checkered tablecloths, and the chairs were neatly arranged, as if waiting for visitors who would never come. Suddenly, an icy wind blew through the room, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic gripped their hearts as an eerie whisper filled the air. Shadows danced on the walls, taking grotesque shapes. The group huddled together, their breath heavy with fear as they heard a low, hoarse voice. "Welcome, my curious guests," he croaked. The voice seemed to come from all directions, but there was something familiar that sent shivers down their spines. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they saw a ghostly figure materialize in front of them. It was a ghostly vision of Colonel Sanders, dressed in his signature white suit, his blank eyes filled with an eerie glow. "I was expecting visitors," whispered the ghostly Colonel Sanders. "You have stumbled upon a secret recipe that I have kept forever." Horror gripped the group as they realized the true nature of ghosts. Colonel Sanders became a restless spirit forever associated with KFC and keeping the recipe that made him famous. He has become the embodiment of his culinary creation, cursed never to reveal the secret. As the ghostly Colonel Sanders strode towards them, his figure darting between reality and ethereal forms, the group fought back their fear and retreated. Desperate to free themselves from the clutches of the ghosts, they ran through the dark corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. Finally, they stormed through the doors of KFC, panting and covered in cold sweats. As they turned back to the haunted building, they saw the ghostly figure of Colonel Sanders standing at the window, his gaze fixed on them with insatiable hunger. From that day on, the abandoned KFC became a place of nightmares, a reminder of a ghost. The guardian and the secret that was inside. No one dared to enter its doors again, and KFC's ghost stories became a cautionary tale passed down from generation to generation. The ghostly legacy of Colonel Sanders served as a chilling reminder that some secrets are best left untouched, locked away in darkness forever, and never tried again.
Once upon a time in the small town of Crestwood, Kentucky, there was an old dilapidated restaurant, Kentucky Fried Chicken. The once bustling restaurant has long been abandoned, its faded red and white sign creaking in the wind. The locals were whispering about strange incidents and frightening incidents around an abandoned building. One moonlit night, a group of enterprising teenagers decided to figure out the rumors on their own. Sarah, the group's self-proclaimed thrill seeker, was walking in front, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. The skeptical Tom floated behind, mocking his friend's infatuation with the supernatural. Rachel and Mark, the most curious, cuddle up to each other, their hearts beating with anticipation. When they approached the abandoned KFC, they got chills. The air became thick and heavy, filled with a peculiar smell, from which they twisted the belly. Flickering street lamps cast frightening shadows that danced on the cracked windows, enhancing the sinister appearance of the building. Shaken, but without fear, the group entered a dilapidated restaurant. The air inside was stale and musty, as if it had not been touched for years. Broken chairs and tables were laid on the floor, covered with a thick layer of dust. The once bright walls were now peeling off, revealing a frightening fresco with faded chicken figurines, their eyes empty and lifeless. Sarah's flashlight shone a light on the stairs leading to the basement. Ignoring the warning signs, the group descended into the darkness, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. The temperature was dropping rapidly, and with each exhalation their breaths formed clouds of ice. When they got to the basement, their sense of smell was hit by a putrid stench. Flickering light bulbs cast a frightening light, illuminating the dark spectacle that opened up in front of them. The walls were covered with strange symbols and mysterious writings. Along the walls of the room there were cages, each containing a grotesque collection of featherless chickens, their pearl eyes staring indifferently into the void. As soon as the group began to retreat, a squeak erupted in the basement. They turned around and saw the door slowly opening at the end of the room. Fear chained their hearts, but curiosity pushed them forward. Trembling, they approached the door. Behind the door, a narrow corridor led into the depths of darkness. As they walked, the air filled with whispers, voices persuading them to go back. But the charm of the unknown pushed them forward, unable to resist the mystery that awaited them. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, merging into a cacophony of obsessive screams. The shadows snaked along the walls of the corridor, taking on the grotesque shapes of monstrous chickens. The group panicked and they rushed to flee, desperately trying to escape from the impending horror. They burst into the door at the end of the corridor and, stumbling, found themselves in a room forced by vintage kitchen equipment. The aroma of spices and fried foods wafted through the air, repressing their senses. In the center of the room was a huge cauldron in which an otherworldly infusion was bubbling. As they turned to run, the room was filled with a buzzing voice echoing with icy force. "You have invaded my possessions in search of what should remain hidden," he said. The group froze, paralyzed by fear, when a figure appeared from the shadows. It was the ghostly figure of Colonel Harlan Sanders himself. His eyes shone from another world. His voice oozed with anger as he explained the dark mystery of the abandoned KFC. Decades ago, the Colonel made a deal with the dark forces by sacrificing countless souls to obtain an unsurpassed flavor on his secret recipe. His mind was forever attached to the restaurant, forever cursed to keep his sinister secret. With a wave of his hand, Colonel Sanders called his demonic chickens. The feathers flew as monstrous creatures rushed at the group. Chaos reigned in the room as they fought for their lives, overcoming the superior enemy forces. In the last desperate rush, Sarah grabbed a bottle of bubbling brew from the boiler and threw it at Colonel Sanders. The bottle shattered on impact, emitting a dazzling light that engulfed the room. The chickens howled in agony, turning into nothing. When the light went out, the room emptied again. There was neither Colonel Sanders nor his demonic chickens. The group, stumbling, came out of the restaurant, panting. The night air was refreshing, sweeping away the horrors they were witnessing. Since that day, the abandoned Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurant has become a place of fear and caution, a reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. The locals told stories about the cursed settlement, warning others to stay away from the Colonel's ghostly revenge. Thus, the abandoned KFC in Crestwood, Kentucky, has become an obsessive testimony to the horrors that can affect those who dare to disturb the troubled spirits attached to our world.